Hello, welcome to UMass Beyond the Classroom, a series of shows featuring a variety of UMass guests. Today we are joined by Communication Professor Kimberly Perez. Welcome to UMass Beyond the Classroom.
Thanks, it's good to be here.
So to start off, what's your role here at UMass?
I'm an assistant professor of performance studies.
And with the research that you have done so far, you looked at narrative performance. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure, really, narrative performance just means that I'm interested in storytelling, the stories that people tell and the stories that people don't tell, either in our daily lives to one another or more specifically on the stage. So someone who might do solo performance on the stage. And and also the cultural conditions under which you might tell certain stories or not others, or how you might want to break through that and tell the stories that you want to tell.
Yeah. And since you're talking about storytelling, how did you get interested into this topic?
When I was growing up, there were not stories that reflected my life. I was growing up in a biracial family. There were stories about some people and not other people. So when I was in college, I started seeing stories of people whose lives really were similar to mine. Stories about race, stories about sexuality that was not heterosexual. I just started seeing more stories that represented me, and I wanted to know how I could do that.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. I like that. I like that. So I just want to make sure I get this right. I see that you actually published a book called Queer Practice Questions for LGBT Workings, Walkthroughs.
World making.
World Making, sorry. Can you tell us a little bit more about that book?
Sure, it's a book that's really looking at how people experience love, and not necessarily love between two people, but love in community. So it really started out as a group of friends who sat around and talked about how they came to know each other and to care about each other and to take care of each other. And so then we took over 5 different years, we started having these really specific conversations like, how do you find belonging, or how do you express your anger? And we're all queer people. And so we just took those conversations and ultimately turned them into a book.
Okay. And now I know that there are multiple authors that helped you out write this book. What was your contribution to this book?
Well, we talk about ourselves as an author team. So really at different points over the 5 years of creating it, we each posed different questions and then we all engaged in dialogue with one another. So the book was very much a collaborative effort. And that was, the process of the book was very much what we were trying to do with the book, was to show how community works.
Now, with again focusing on this book, did you go out into the LGBT community to talk to other people, or did you what was the whole process going behind this?
So a lot of it was the conversations we had with one another. The sections of the book are the conversations we have with one another, and then we also invited a bunch of other people to write their own pieces in response to the topic. So like say on anger or on intimacy or on marriage, things like this, we invited other people to contribute their own stories into those topics.
Okay. And now, before you mentioned that you thought of yourself as an author team. So what was it like working with other people, other authors, with different points of view?
Working with other people is great, and it's awful, and it's because you have to deal with different personalities, you have to deal with different opinions, but that's sort of it was a reflection of our real lives, of how this works, and we didn't hide anything. So if there were tensions or there were disagreements, it came through the writing, and I think ultimately that's a really productive thing, because that's what happens in community. We don't always agree, and I think that's a good thing.
Okay. Now I understand that you're doing a few different projects. One of them being on performance piece. Do you mind if you can just give us a little bit more information regarding this?
Sure, I'm always working on performance pieces. I do a lot of solo performance, and really they're the kinds of things that bug me. So one of the things I think about is when I was growing up, there weren't a lot of lesbians represented on TV or represented in stories, at least not that I had access to. And so I think about those things and how I became who I am through the relationships I had, through those absences in the things that I was interested in, or the absences of those representations.
Mm.
So, so I'm telling stories about that, and to really think about the ways in which lesbians are represented or not, and what that might mean for people who are becoming lesbians.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Now, with that, keeping that in mind, is it more like that you're trying to like? Are you trying to like like do like acting wise, or is it just you just talking from personal experience?
I'm talking from personal experience. I'm drawing on the experiences of my own life, the specifics of the things that I've experienced. And they might relate to other people and they might not, but really it's about starting a conversation. So if I tell my story, another person might have a story that they could also tell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, are there any other projects or books that you're working on right now?
Yes, I'm also working on a book, another area within the context of narrative. I'm really interested in questions of intimacy
Hmm.
and how we find intimacy um, outside of what we usually think of as traditional relationships. So how you might find intimacy going to a public performance, how you connect with other people, how you get to talk about the issues that matter to you. So my next book is on intimacy.
Okay. And do you have like any like future ideas that you may be able to throw out like right now, or anything kind of considering whether it's a book or a project based? Like, do you have anything in particular that you're looking forward to do?
Yeah, I'm always thinking of a lot of different projects. Um, and of course, in this moment, I cannot think of one of them.
That's all right. That's all right. That's all right. So, do you like? Do you bring like so with all the many things that you have done so far throughout your life? Do you bring any of those concepts back into like the classroom?
Yes, I always bring those concepts in the classroom. A lot of my classrooms, so right now I'm teaching a class on the performance and politics of race.
Mm.
And so we talk about race. We talk about um, how we don't talk about race, or we talk about how we do talk about race. And students bring in their own stories of racialized experiences or racial tension or things that are happening on campus.
And then like what do you enjoy most about like your work? Like, cause I know for a fact that when you came into one of my classes, you mentioned that you came cross country from Arizona all the way to Massachusetts. So, like, do you like what was it like just to be able to even come here? Like, what made you make that decision?
Coming here was a really easy and exciting decision. It was a place, UMass is a place that I had known about since I was an undergrad. I think about the communication department in particular. People are interested in questions of social justice. And for me, social justice is so much about how we get stories out there that aren't usually represented and how we gather stories of people who we don't usually see. And so for me, to be a part of something like that, to be a part of something bigger, was just a really exciting opportunity. And the people here are really interesting and open, and it's a really welcoming space.
What do you enjoy most about your work in performance?
I like that one thing about performance is that it takes the body, it takes the personal as a site of knowledge. Usually we think about gathering knowledge as a scientific process or as something that has to be large amounts of data. But when you can have one person telling their story and that can tell us something about the world, I think that matters. I think that interrupts some of the things that we usually think about the world and gives us different perspectives.
And then, like, with like some of the research that you've done, do you have any UMass students a part of it, or are you looking for any UMass students to help you out with your research?
Yeah, what I think is most rewarding is that I have a history of also directing other people's performances.
Mm.
So one of the things I'd really be interested in doing here is to get a group of students together who want to talk about an issue and developing a performance out of it.
Hmm. No, that would be pretty cool. I might sign up for that.
I think you should.
Yeah. So, finally, like, if, like, there's any students, like, any prospective students that are out there that are interested in any of the topics that we talked about today, what classes can they find you teaching? How can they get in contact with you? Email, office hours?
So right now I'm teaching a class on the performance and politics of race. I'm also teaching a course on queer performance in publics. I'm teaching graduate courses in the spring, and I'm looking to develop a course on belonging and citizenship.
Mm.
I think there's a lot of opportunity to develop classes here. And as far as getting in touch with me, I'm easily available by email. I'm in my office on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I welcome people to come and stop by or to go out for coffee or to have lunch. I think you and I are having lunch next week.
Yeah.
I love getting to know students, especially, and hearing what's going on for them.
Well, that's unfortunately that's all the time that we have today. I really do thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you so much. It's good to talk to you.
Again, I'd like to thank Professor Perez for joining us. Be sure to tune in next time for another episode of UMass Beyond the Classroom. I'm your host, Danzel Jones, signing off.
Let's talk about it.
Okay. Yep, so we're done.
Okay. Can I